Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel, or welcome in if you're new around here. Always nice to have new people showing up. But today, we're back out in the Virginia deer woods for some early firearms doe season hunting, trying to get some good meat in the freezer pretty early on in the season. We've already got one doe on the ground so far this year, if you've been following along with the hunts we've been doing so far. But today, I asked you guys what is the next thing you wanted to see me hunt with, and that's what we're bringing out here today. So, I'm going to keep this intro pretty short so we can get into the actual hunting, but a few bits of context. That way everybody's on the same page going into it. Like I just mentioned, we're hunting Virginia, and we're taking advantage of where a lot of counties in Virginia have an early firearms doe season during the month of September. There are way too many deer in a lot of these areas, so it's a good management tool, and it lets us get some meat in the freezer early. So that's exactly what we're doing. So, not allowed to take any bucks, it's only does. And we can pretty much use whatever we want, as long as it's a legal caliber. So recently, I put up this poll, asking you guys what you wanted to see me hunt with next, and the 20 gauge slugs won. So in that case, what we're using today is a Stevens 301 20 gauge, set up about as basic as you can get, just the stock flush improved cylinder choke. Up on top is a random Nikon inline XR muzzleloader scope that I had on the shelf. Looks a little goofy on top, but it serves the purpose for what we're doing with this shotgun today. And these little Stevens 301s are surprisingly accurate little slug guns sometimes too. And for the shells we're running, it's your classic Winchester Super X loading, 2 3/4 inch, 3/4 ounce rifled slug. Nothing fancy going on here, but it's definitely going to get the job done, that's for sure. And a few quick stipulations. Like I mentioned a minute ago, we can't shoot any bucks. And as for me personally, I'm not going to be shooting any fawns. And I don't like shooting does that still have fawns following them around either. Yes, at this point they could survive on their own, but just a personal preference, especially on a property that I can control and have the option to pass on a doe with a fawn. And for limitations for the shotgun, max range about 75 yards is where I want to be, but if we can get a 40-50 yard shot somewhere in there, that's going to be absolutely perfect. It's exactly what we want. So now that everybody should be on the same page and we've got all of our context out of the way, let's jump right into day number one, because things are going to be a little bit of a roller coaster on this one. Alright, well, day number one for our 20 gauge slug hunt, and I decided to play a little bit different of a ball game tonight. I'm in a box blind, and it's still pretty early in the season, but I'm overlooking what is essentially a failed bean field for this year. They planted, it sprouted, and then we had no rain for 2 months almost, and the deer ate it all and everything died and so on. There are still some bean sprouts out there, but not much. However, I'm always seeing deer out here every time I go in and out of the farm in the evenings. So I know they still pass on through this field and munch on whatever is green out here and stuff like that. So I'm thinking we should still have a decent chance tonight. It's just a matter of if we can get them within our range or not. With this 20 gauge slug gun, I ideally want to keep it inside of 75 yards. If we can get a 40-50 yard shot, that's going to be money for us. And it's definitely doable if the deer do what I typically see them do anyway. Here's the view of the field that I got. As you can see, not much green out there, but they're still eating off of what is. We can't shoot too much farther to the right because you can see there's a tractor over there. And there is a farmhouse over there that somebody lives in as well. So we got to keep our shots pretty well straight out in front of us, or farther over here towards the left. We're good as well. So may not look like anything super impressive, but if we can get a deer right up here in front of us on the top crest of this little hill in the field, we're going to be good, because that tree line is about 110 yards or so out in front of us. So we've got a couple hours to play with here. It's been drizzly all morning long. I know there are going to be deer in the area, so I guess it's just a waiting game, and we'll see where they come from, where they go, and if one of them gives me a shot opportunity. And I'll just jump in here and voiceover and show you guys a picture. This is looking from my point of view where I would have taken the shot, and those deer were standing right about here for a lot of that, when they were kind of right up close together and stuff like that. Unfortunate that I had this little bit of tree limb stuff in the way. I just didn't feel comfortable trying to sneak a shot through there. Just a little bit of an awkward situation, but that's the way it goes sometimes. And the building you guys see in the background is just a pole shed for machinery and stuff. Nobody's in there. It would have been perfectly safe to take that shot if we had a clearing anyway. And the cows back there are about 280 yards away from me or so. So it all would have been perfectly fine. Unfortunately, the branches kind of got in the way. Okay, well, that does it for night number 1 with the 20 gauge. We were so very close there, but those two does early on gave me a super awkward opportunity. They came full sprint all the way across the field, all the way to my 3 o'clock, 90 degrees to my right, so I had no time to get the camera moved over and the gun picked up. It was just a very awkward scenario, and from my point of view, I had a few little sticks and stuff right up close to the blind out of that right-hand window that I was trying to shoot through, so they were right on the edge of me trying to shoot through those sticks, and it didn't work out. They were too close, they were up against each other and everything else. Awkward scenario, and I wasn't going to push it. Then we had those two does and fawn come out right at last light. They were about 60 yards, but I have no idea which one was the actual mother to the fawn, and I don't like shooting fawns or does that still have fawns following them around, so I just let that group go as well. A little bit of an awkward night, I guess. The deer didn't do exactly what I thought they would, but hey, we're seeing good deer, and like I suspected, multiple doe groups out there, so we should be able to hit it again tomorrow, I would imagine, and hopefully we get a little less awkward of a situation. And that's exactly what I did. I went back to that box blind the next night and did not see a single thing. Day number 3 came around. I went and sat over my food plot that is just starting to sprout up. And wouldn't you know it, I didn't see a single thing there on evening number 3 either. Except for a pair of does that I jumped up as I was walking out that night. So now we're up to day number 4 and things got pretty interesting pretty quickly here. Alright y'all, well, what is it, day number 4, maybe 5 now, something like that? I kind of lost count at this point. Either way, I decided to do something a little bit interesting. I swapped stands to a stand that I haven't hunted in a long time. The last time I was here was during muzzleloader season like 2 years ago, and I took a shot at a buck that completely misfired in my muzzleloader and the powder didn't go off. Either way, this spot is situated in a really good location. Number 1, we're sitting on pretty much the main crossroads trail. This is like the 4-way stop sign for deer through this property. It's probably about 60, maybe 70 yards from where I saw that pair of does last night after I had already left out of the last stand, and this is where they would have come from. I don't usually hunt this stand very often, and when I do, it's typically muzzleloader season because it's pretty hot for buck activity there. But I decided, hey, we've got, I don't know, 10 days or so left of the early doe season. Let's just go where I know they're deer. I've got a camera set up down here. I see them all the time. I saw 2 come out of here yesterday evening. Why not go down here and try it? It's been rainy all day long, and it literally just stopped as I was getting in the stand, which is going to set up perfectly. I love hunting right after a day of rain. If it clears up for the last hour or 2 of the evening, it's go time. And here's the view from my stand. This is a main dirt bike trail up and down this hillside here that we use. However, down there at the bottom from left to right, you can see that other little trail off to the right that continues to the left. That's pretty much the main 4-way stop sign right down there. And there's a tiny little stream down there at the bottom as well. If there's a deer moving in or out of this property, it's through that area right down there. It's 40 yards down to the bottom and 45 or 48 just across on the other side of that stream. Everything is within easy range and we should see deer. I've been told that there's probably going to be a farmer mowing the field over here behind me at some point this evening, but who knows, maybe that might jump some deer up. Either way, we've got great conditions and I'm feeling lucky tonight. So let's sit here for a bit, a couple hours till dark, and see if maybe we might get lucky this evening because things have been a little tricky so far. That worked out perfectly. She was standing broadside right down there across that trail. She was right at 40 yards. As you can hear, the neighbors over here behind me in this field that you can barely see, bush hogging a trail around it. That's what all that tractor noise is, but the deer did exactly kind of what I thought they would. More than likely, that was one of the does that I saw last night on my way out of that previous stand. I mean, from where she was standing when I just shot her, she was probably 60 yards from where I saw that pair last night. And it happened quick too. I saw her pop out. I was just able to get the camera on while she was still walking across there, and everything worked out great. She didn't drop right where she stood, surprisingly, but I watched her run across right here in front of me about, I don't know, 30 yards out. And I believe she landed over here on my right somewhere. I'm pretty sure I saw her fall. So she didn't make it far at all. So now it's just, I'll give her a couple minutes. I'll slowly pack my stuff up, and we're out of here pretty quick. Because, I mean, it hasn't been 15 minutes since I got in the stand. So you can't complain about that right there. I believe we got a doe down with the 20 gauge slugs. Alright, well, we're down out of the stand. You can see it up there behind me. But I'm going to take you guys along with me over here because I think it's only about, I don't know, maybe 30 yards over to where I thought I saw her fall, which is right over in here. So let's take a quick walk over here and see what we get. I believe she should be right around that big, gigantic tree right in the middle of the screen. So I guess we will try and figure out a way through here, maybe up here. Yeah, she should be somewhere right over here. There's a fence line from an old cattle fence right here as well. I don't think she would have jumped over that. We shouldn't need a blood trail either with these slugs. They should be pretty obvious. And yep, there you go. Got a bunch of stuff right here. I believe right here is where I saw her fall, so she should be somewhere right in here. I don't see her up here, and I don't think she jumped the fence, and that's a thicket right there. So maybe she rolled down the hill a little bit, potentially. Yep, we still got good blood all the way through here, a lot of it, and there she is laying right there. Perfect. Pretty much exactly where I thought she would be, right next to this giant oak tree. So let's see what we've got. She kind of slid down and landed, and yeah, I'm gonna have to start turning that black and white because that is pretty impressive for a wound cavity, that's for sure. YouTube probably won't like me showing too much of that one, but I'll get her pulled away from that tree and we'll take a little better look because that's just the entry. Alright, so I got her drug up the hill a little bit here, right next to this oak tree with the gigantic anthill in it, but probably back to black and white for you guys. I'm really curious to flip this deer over because if that's the entry wound, I'm sure the exit is probably going to be pretty nasty if we actually got an exit from those slugs. And I flipped her over, and it looks like we did indeed get an exit a little bit farther forward in the shoulder, right at the base of the neck. I don't know if that was the entire slug or just a piece of it, but she was quartering away from me just a hair. We didn't ruin a ton of shoulder meat necessarily because we entered behind the shoulder and exited just in front, so nothing too major there, but it definitely put the hurting on her, that's for sure. Alrighty, well, that was a rather interesting hunt. Things were looking pretty strange the first few days, that's for sure, but we got it all worked out, and tonight, I mean, you can't argue with that. 15 minutes in the stand, and we got it done. Nice, healthy doe. Nothing to complain about. She didn't drop right where she stood, but still, that's probably about as good of a shot as we could have got from where she was standing in that quick a time. And with a slug gun, that's going to drop the hammer any day of the week. So now, we'll get some thumbnails for you guys. I'll get her field dressed, we'll load her up, and we'll take her on down to the butcher. Alright, well, once again, another doe loaded up in the Chevy here. Got dark on us pretty quick due to the rain this evening, but that's why it's always nice to get it done early on when you get in the stand, especially on cloudy, overcast, misty nights like this. You can deal with everything in the daylight still. So, nice, healthy adult doe, loaded up. Let's head on down the road to the butcher. I like supporting my local butchers, especially in the early season and stuff. I could cut her up myself, but I'd rather just give the local guys the 90 bucks to cut her up, and then we got nice meat and butcher paper and stuff like that. So let's get her on down the road, and in a couple days we'll have some more meat in the freezer. Alright, well, got her all hung up in the big cooler here. So now in a few days we're gonna have some nice meat cut up and some more to put in the freezer. Quick after field dress report. There was nothing in there as far as the slug goes, but it was very liquidy red inside of there. That's the entry hole right here on this side, and the other side exited just at the front edge of the shoulder. And it seems like when you put a bullet through just in front of everything, we clipped one lung and everything else vital artery wise right in front of the heart and lungs. Seems like when you put a bullet through there, things get very liquidy red, if you know what I mean. And that was no exception. So we're all good to go here. Got us a nice doe down with the 20 gauge, that's for sure. And now we got some more meat for the freezer. Okay, well, I decided to come back out here on the next morning. Out of pure curiosity, you can see our stand right up there on top of the hill where we shot that doe last night. But I came down here to the bottom because I've got a trail camera right over here on this tree in front of me, and I'm gonna check it and see if we actually got a picture right when the shot happened, because that doe was standing right here where I'm standing here. And yep, sure enough, we got lucky. This was the only trail cam picture that camera was able to take with that quick a time. She literally walked in front of the camera and it snapped a picture at pretty much the point of impact. This is less than a second or so after that slug actually hit her, and it was a beautiful shot, as you can see. So always pretty neat to get a picture like that. It's not every day that happens, that's for sure. But I also was just kicking around over here just to see if by chance we could find the slug that exited, and I don't know if this is pure luck or what, but look at what I see stuck right down there in the edge of the dirt. That is the slug. So it exited that doe and hit the ground right here behind her, right where I thought it would, and we got lucky enough to find it. Let's pull it out of the dirt here and see. Yep, that is absolutely a rifled slug. It smashed out pretty good, I would say, but it surprisingly held together. I don't think there's very much loss here, maybe a little bit of lead, but it did not turn into a complete string or donut like a lot of rifled slugs do. So I'm honestly pretty impressed with that. So now I guess I'll have to clean it up and weigh it and just see out of curiosity. I think this is one of the very few bullets or slugs or anything I've ever actually recovered, especially after they exit the deer. So that was pure chance right there, that's for sure. Alright, so I brought it in here to my little scale, and weighing it, we get right at 300.8 grains. This is a 3/4 ounce slug, so 3/4 ounce is roughly 328 grains, I believe. So we did lose a little bit, but really not much at all. So I'm rather impressed. I believe we're looking directly down at the top of the slug right now. You can kind of see that little bit of a small half circle right at the tip of my finger. I believe that's the hollow point cavity in the top of the slug. Because here's one side by side for reference. You can see that little hollow point in the front. I think that's the top of the slug, and it smashed out like that, and something definitely hit this side of it pretty hard. Probably a shoulder bone or something along that line. So that is definitely a really awesome find that I did not expect, but it's definitely pretty neat, that's for sure. And we had a total expansion at 0.87 as well. So it smashing flat like that definitely widened it out a little bit as well. So that's exactly why we saw as nasty of a wound channel as we actually did there, that's for sure. Okay, well, that was a rather interesting hunt. First day, almost had a chance, and then we kind of had some days in the middle there where we didn't see much of anything. And then magically, I swapped stands to that one certain location where I had seen those deer come from the night before, kind of betting on the chance that there would be deer moving through there, and sure enough, we were in the stand, 15 minutes or something, and it absolutely paid off. 40-yard shot, I'll take that all day long. I'm honestly rather surprised that doe didn't drop where she stood, but still that 20 gauge absolutely hammered her. She didn't make it very far, and I still saw her fall, so it absolutely did the job perfectly fine. And now we've got some more meat in the freezer, so job accomplished. I got more meat in the freezer, I got to film another hunt for you guys, and I got to film with the shotgun setup that you all wanted to see. So it's definitely a win-win here. No real complaints on this one. I definitely enjoyed it, that's for sure. And now I can add the notch that I've killed a deer with a 20 gauge, which I have not done yet until now, so that's a nice little bonus as well. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed the hunt. If you like what you're seeing around here, don't worry, we've got plenty more on the way. I plan on being out a bunch more this fall in the deer woods as well, with a few different calibers and stuff like that, to try and get a couple more on the ground and video them for you guys. So keep an eye out, because there will be more on the way. But leave all your thoughts down in the comments. Let me know what you think about this hunt. Did it go the way you expected it to? Have you hunted deer with 20 gauge, and is this about what you've seen as well? And maybe what other calibers or gauges of shotgun or whatever the case is might you want to see me hunt with? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I'm going to get back to all the usual testing, and I'll probably be back out in the woods this evening, to be honest with you again, but I'm going to get back to it. So I'll see y'all in the next one.